Okay, we finally got our hands on the Snapdragon laptop and I have spent about 2 weeks with this laptop. I was surprised, enjoyed its capabilities, and also was frustrated with troubleshooting and eventually got a good idea of what the new Snapdragon laptops could do. I know we are a little late to the party, and here are my findings and what I experienced with this new slew of Snapdragon X Elite laptops. The laptops we are using for this test is the ASUS Vivobook S S5507Q, and it is packed with the Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite X1E-78-100 chipset, 32 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM at 8448 mega transfers per second, we'll get more into that later, 1TB of SSD and a Qualcomm Adreno GPU with 3.8 teraflops. Sorry, but we don't have any details of what kind of Adreno GPU is in this Snapdragon X Elite laptop because Qualcomm's website just never writes it. But we are going to talk about a little bit of the history first. All of Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips are actually running on ARM architecture. ARM is a company that designs chips and then licenses them to companies like Qualcomm to customize and integrate into their chip, and then send it to fabs like TSMC, Samsung or GlobalFoundries to make them into actual chips to use in our devices. In this case though, the Orion CPU is customized and the GPU is also customized, but the entire interconnect system is still based on ARM. The new Snapdragon X Elite CPUs, codenamed Orion, is based on ARM's V8.7-A. These new Snapdragon X Elite laptops are still referred to as Windows on ARM laptop because, it is actually still running on ARM architecture. And ARM uses RISC instruction sets, whereby Intel and AMD are based on x86, which uses CISC instruction set. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, and ARM is an interesting company, and let me know down in the comment section below if you'd like a video dedicated to talk about just ARM itself and also its architectures. And for the sake of brevity, I'm going to call x86-64 as x86 only and ARM64 as only just ARM architecture in this video. Here's a table of what all of those names really mean, and I'm not concerned about whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit in today's topic, so this is why I'm only gonna call them as x86 and ARM architectures. Back to the topic at hand. Windows is predominantly made for x86 software. So a lot of work has to be done to get it running on ARM properly. We can achieve that by either rewriting all of the software so that it runs natively on ARM architecture or just through code translation. If we just rewrite all of the software, then it will take much more time and effort to get it running properly, and we will also have to rewrite every single piece of software. However, it will perform the best because it is just running natively and no code translation is in sight. Take a look at this test that I've done. So first up, we have Handbrake. This is a free tool that many people use to transcode videos, and I used our review video of the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra, you can watch it at the top right corner there, and transcode it using the fast 2160p AV1 preset, but changed it to 60 FPS. So I have two versions of Handbrake installed on this laptop. One version is ARM and then another is x86. And I can compare how much of a performance difference we will get if we're gonna use either of one architecture. And the answer is about 30%, which is a lot. Yeah, the transcoding took considerably longer on x86 version of Handbrake running on the Snapdragon X Elite. With that big of a performance gap, we have to make sure we are always using ARM architecture software whenever possible. Then comes DaVinci Resolve. The DaVinci Resolve version 19 public beta is available on ARM version for Windows, and I used the Age of Airplane sample file on DaVinci's website to do this test. And it only took 6 seconds to render the entire video with the YouTube 1080p preset. However, when I tried to launch the x86 version, it just wouldn't launch and it says GPU error. We then move on to CapCut. It's surprising to me that many people are using CapCut for video editing, and it is also available in both x86 and ARM architecture, but you will have to download the Microsoft Store version to get the ARM version of this software. And while it does work, it's actually very buggy. The interface isn't working that well, and the fan speed just ramped up really high, and the power consumption is nearly 82 watts. Remember, this laptop only comes with a 90-watt charger, so if we want to charge the laptop's battery while running CapCut at the same time, then it will hit that 90 watts limit easily. While I can't actually measure how long it takes to render the video in CapCut, I can tell you that it's very long. It's just not a very good app on ARM architecture as of now, so stick with DaVinci Resolve if you want to do video editing. If you want some alternative apps, then you can check out this website right here, and the amount of software made for ARM architecture is still growing. I'll leave a link down in the description below for you as well, because I find this website to be very resourceful. Now, if we make a translation layer to just translate x86 code to ARM, then a lot of software can just all of a sudden, in theory, work properly, and developers don't have to rewrite the software and maintain another variant of their software just for ARM users. This is great for Windows in particular, since there are already millions of software developers, and it's just kind of impossible to get everyone to rewrite their software for ARM. However, there are two problems. Firstly, even with a solid translation layer, it's not guaranteed to be compatible with all apps. Before the Snapdragon X Elite's release, x86 emulation on ARM has been pretty iffy, and I guess Qualcomm partnered with Microsoft so much that Microsoft finally decided to write a new translation layer that they're calling it as Prism. This new Prism translation layer should be beneficial for any existing laptops that are also running on ARM chips, like the, ASUS Vivobook B3000 or the Joybook SK3000 that are just literally running on Snapdragon 800 series chipsets for smartphones, but on a laptop form factor. Again, it's not perfect since I spent more time troubleshooting to get apps like OBS working on this laptop rather than actually trying it out. I also want to mention this quickly. To those who said Apple did better, actually no, Apple had its own fair share of problems when the M1 chip first came out. I know this because I am using an M1 Pro MacBook Pro, and there were many apps that just didn't have an ARM version for some time. And I think Apple eventually did better for ARM architecture because they literally forced all of its developers to migrate to ARM if they want to survive, as there were no other new laptops running on x86 architecture from Apple. With all of that said, why should you buy a laptop with an ARM chip? Well, it's the same reason why your mobile devices uses ARM. When it is doing low-powered tasks, it can really be low-powered. I'm talking about single-digit power consumption, and I compared this with the latest AMD Strix Points chip, by the way. With that power efficiency, the battery life of this laptop is truly amazing. With its 70 watt-hour battery, it can easily last for 10 hours on a single charge through my usual usage of web browsing, YouTube music, and some YouTube videos in the mix. Seriously, the Vivobook S14 and S16 that we have reviewed previously that were running on Intel chips, they can only last for half as much as this laptop can. Oh, since this laptop's fan isn't exactly spinning that much, I can actually use this laptop on a bed or on a sofa, and it really just doesn't have any thermal issues at all. And speaking of that, telemetries like HWinfo or MSI Afterburner just straight up don't work, and we can only see the temperature. So I use this to read all of the power consumption data. Then comes gaming. Of course, these laptops aren't actually meant for gaming, but you should be able to play some simpler games on it. For example, I published a video where I tested like about 15 games, and a lot of the games worked well. Indie titles that aren't that heavy actually ran fantastically. Even GTA 5 ran better than the AMD or Intel chips from about a year or two ago. Yet, it only consumes less than 40 watts while we are playing GTA 5 at the lowest graphical settings at 1080p resolution. And on top of that, it is also translating x86 to ARM for that particular game. As a comparison, the new AMD Strix Point laptops will consume around 60 watts with the exact same settings. However, certain games like Counter-Strike just straight up don't work at all, and I have no idea why. On Qualcomm's website, it does say that the Snapdragon X Elite laptops will support DirectX 12 as well, but I'm just not sure what's going on for some games that just straight up crash. There must be some changes in a deeper level of the Windows operating system that cause these kind of incompatibility issues. I still think that for this generation of Windows on ARM laptops, they are quite successful, and largely it is thanks to Microsoft, who actually decided it is time to take Windows on ARM seriously and develop that Prism translation layer. I have no idea why it took them so long to develop this translation layer, since some of Microsoft's own Surface devices are using custom SQ series of chipsets that are also ARM based. By the way, the recall feature is just straight up not present on any Copilot Plus PCs as of now, and again, we don't really have any idea why this is the case, but I have tried the recall feature back in Computex 2024, and it's actually quite a neat feature to have. I just hope that they can address all of the concerns before rolling out that feature. And for this laptop in particular, the Vivobook S15, it's basically just a 15-inch version of the Vivobook S14 and S16 that we have reviewed recently. And it also comes with the great OLED screen with magnificent color accuracy and brightness levels. But those moments are far and few in between. I also opened up this laptop because I was curious to know what we can do after we have bought this laptop. And once I got it open, I was not really that surprised. Basically, everything is soldered except the SSD. It's using the standard M.2 2280 NVMe SSD, which is great since we can swap it out to whatever we want. I mean, why I say this is great is because the MacBooks with Apple Silicon that is also based on ARM architecture, they have everything soldered onto the motherboard, including the SSD, which is my biggest concern when the SSD eventually degrades, because it's just kind of inevitable when you're trying to use the computer. And that's it. That's all that we have to share with you in today's video. I know many other creators got the Snapdragon X Elite laptops earlier and did a bunch of videos on it, but hey, I got this laptop more than a month late. Personally, the Snapdragon X Elite laptops and also Windows in ARM in general, I do think that it is good only if all of the apps are supported. So for example, if you want to do office stuff, it's actually quite good, but if you want to play games on it, it's gonna be a bit more troublesome because the support isn't exactly perfect right now. The battery life and the near zero fan noise is also fantastic. Will it get better over time though? I can't predict the future, but I sure hope they do. Qualcomm needs to keep up the momentum, and Microsoft needs to further improve on the Prism translation layer. App developers will also need to have an ARM version of their software to take full advantage of the ARM architecture and the low power consumption as well. I'm actually quite optimistic when it comes to the future of these ARM-based laptops, but only if the software is done more properly. More competitors are said to be coming as well, like Nvidia and MediaTek's partnership to bring Windows on ARM in 2025. I'm not sure how true that is, but I am trying to imagine an ARM PC running on Nvidia GeForce RTX GPUs, but also with an ARM CPU. That would bring an insane level of performance and power efficiency on both fronts. And that is all that we have to share with you today. Do like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think about Windows on ARM, and will you buy one? I'm curious to know what you think, and we'll see you guys in the next video.